this computer for now. So you'll have to give consent to recording, so please go ahead and do that. And I'm going to go ahead and share the screen here. So let's see. Yeah, so I guess some of you can already access the syllabus, which is good. Okay, so I'm going to share. Okay, perfect. I hope all of you can share the screen now, or at least see my screen. And okay, perfect. And if you have any questions, what I've found, like I've obviously haven't taught a full class, but I've run a lot of meetings. I've done a lot of presentations online. And one thing that works for me is that if you have any questions, just kind of mention them in the chat room, and I'll try to answer them. Sometimes what I have seen works well is have a student assistant monitor the chat, and I will have a student assistant, a teaching assistant for this class, who would be helping me out. So they will monitor the chat, but they're not here today. But I will have a student who will be able to monitor the chat. So today, just bear with me because I will try to peek into the chat window. But if I'm not able to pay attention to it, I'll try to periodically look into that. So today might not work best because I don't have a student assistant looking at the chat window and kind of tap on my virtual shoulder to remind me that some questions are popping up there. But I'll make sure that we do that in the future classes when we're discussing substantive content. Okay, so any questions so far? Anything? So there's nothing on the chat window. I don't see. Okay, perfect. So let's go over. So this is CE 526. Welcome to CE 526. And so this is the class on transportation safety. This class is a relatively new class in the Cal Poly. So it was introduced right just as I had joined back in 2007, 8. So relatively new class because obviously transportation engineering is an old program at Cal Poly. We have had a lot of traffic engineering, CE 421, for example, and highway design, CE 422. So those are our more traditional classes that have been around since the 1980s. But this transportation safety class is a relatively new class, has been here only for like maybe last 10, 12, 13 years or so. Just as I had joined, the class was introduced by another faculty. But I have sort of taken over this class and made my own since, I'm going to say about 2014 or so. We've been offering this class fairly regularly since then. And it is a graduate class. It touches on several aspects of highway safety, roadway safety, including the development of relevant guidelines to traffic safety. The course involves development and application of the highway safety manual. And highway safety manual is a relatively, because as I said, the class is relatively new, because some of the content that we cover in this class is relatively new. Highway safety manual was first introduced in 2010. So you can see that this is the content that is based on very latest research. And this is the first edition of the highway safety manual that's still in practice. They're going to come out with a second edition very soon, in next year or 2 years or so. And I've been involved in some of that research as well. So I'll be able to share some of those things with you in the class. And what we'll try to do is try to measure or get a sense of what we call the substantive safety. And we'll talk about the process of road safety audits to assess the nominal safety and so forth. So one concept that we're going to sort of emphasize on in the class is the differentiation between substantive safety and nominal safety. And nominal safety is a lot of times, nominal safety is just basically talking about whether a roadway location or an intersection location or a highway design meets the relevant criteria or not, right? So sometimes, if it's meeting the right criteria, if it's providing adequate sight distance or not. And by and large, most roadway locations in the United States will meet the criteria of the nominal safety. Nominal safety, we are worried about, are you meeting all the relevant design guidelines or not, right? And obviously there are some smart lawyers out there that can, with the help of smart traffic engineers and practitioners, they can figure out if there is something lacking, and that's how lawsuits happen and so forth. But by and large, because we are a sort of a litigious society in the United States, you can almost be certain that most locations meet the criteria for nominal safety. I mean, they meet the design standards. But the whole point of this class, and we're going to emphasize that again and again, is that just because something meets the criteria for nominal safety, that does not mean that that location is 100% safe, right? I mean, if that were the case, we would never have any crashes at all, right? If we are designing everything by all the design standards, which by and large we are doing, and if we did that, then we shouldn't expect any crashes, right? So, but that's not the case, right? So you can have a design that's nominally safe, but still have crashes. And that's where the concept of substantive safety comes in. You could have, so it's the safety is not a step function where you're safe, either safe or unsafe, right? You meet the design standard, you're safe, and you don't meet the design standard, you're unsafe. That is actually not really the case. What is the case really is that safety is sort of a continuous thing. You could have a location, basically multiple locations that are designed basically the same way, have more or less the same amount of traffic, and yet have different amount of crashes. And that's what we call the concept of substantive safety, is that safety could change depending upon a lot of different factors. Observed safety of a location could be a lot different than something else. So that's the concept of substantive safety that I'm going to discuss in a lot more detail in the class. And in terms of the nominal safety, what we'll try to do is we'll try to get some process of road safety audits done so that we can kind of look at the nominal safety criteria as well. So we'll try to focus on both things, and we'll kind of dig a lot deeper into substantive safety, a lot deeper into nominal safety as well. But that'll happen through the course of the class. But at this point, I just want to make clear that Highway Safety Manual, it's a relatively new document that drives the content of this class and focuses quite a lot on substantive safety. And then we'll also look at road safety audits that try to assess the nominal safety as well. And I already introduced myself. I'm Anurag Pandey. I'm professor of civil engineering. My office is in building 13, room 212. But obviously, I'm working from home due to COVID-19 this year. And so my office hour location really for you, it's going to be the Zoom location, the Zoom room that I located there. And I will have my contact info is my email address. And if you're so inclined, which I would advise against, you shouldn't spend too much time on social media. But if you're on there, I talk about traffic safety, transportation in general, and not quite a bit because I don't have that much time, but I do talk about some. I talk about some on my Twitter, so my Twitter handle is there as well. So if you spend any time on Twitter and you don't want to get away from transportation content, you can follow me there. But again, I would advise not to spend too much time on social media. That's mostly a time suck. But if you're interested, I do talk about some on traffic safety on my Twitter handle. My office hours, Monday, Wednesday, 8 to 10 a.m. But they will be starting not this week, but next week. So starting next week, 8 to 10 a.m. And if you want to set up a time to meet outside of those times, because I know you might have classes or you might have other things going on, or it might just be too early for you, you could reach out to me on Calendly. So Calendly is basically an app which has access to my calendar, and you can, if you go to this link, you can set up an appointment to meet with me anytime, really. I don't think it allows you to set up same-day appointment, but the next day appointment, if my calendar is free, I would be happy to meet with you for I think it sets up a half-an-hour meeting, but it doesn't have to be half an hour. And if I have more time available, I can chat longer with you. But you can just set up a time to meet online on Calendly app. if you are signed in, just be signed into the Cal Poly portal when joining my Zoom room, because then I know that you are a student from this class, or you're a Cal Poly student, and it helps us prevent incidents like Zoom bombing and so forth. So if you're signed in, that makes everybody's life easier. So that's the way to contact me. One thing, so we are going to post all the materials for this class on Canvas, on our learning management system, which is Canvas for this class. We'll do some reading assignments there. I'll post my lecture notes. I'll post my homework problems. I'll post the class recording on there as well. I mean, what I'll do is I'll just post all those things into YouTube, and I'll just post the YouTube video link there. So if you want to sort of look at something that happened during that class, you can do that. And make sure that you know where my office is, virtually at least for this year, and make a note of the scheduled office hours. But again, if you can't make those office hours, you're welcome to reach out to me during any other time. And we'll talk about all my expectations for classroom civility, academic honesty during the syllabus. Just make sure that you're aware of those as well. So I spoke of Canvas earlier. So what I'll do right now is that I'll stop for a minute here, and I would like to make sure that you guys can all access the Canvas page for the next minute or so. So if you guys could take a quick look at my Cal Poly and go to your Canvas page and make sure that you guys can all access that, that'll be great for me. So go ahead and access and so I'm going to do the same thing here. And please make sure that you guys can access Canvas here, because I have published the course. And what I'm trying to do is I'm going to go ahead and change it to my student. So this is what you should all be able to see online. So if you're not able to see, just kind of ping me on chat. If you're not able to access the chat or anything like that, please let me know in the chat box. But if you're able to see it, no action is necessary. I'll just go ahead and wait for another minute or so before I switch back over to the discussion of the syllabus. But you should be able to see the Canvas page and access the Canvas page. And I know Cal Poly recently moved to Canvas, but by now all of us have switched over. So you should have some experience with Canvas before. Just make sure that you guys are able to see everything. If you're not, just ping me on chat, and I'll take another minute or so before I switch back to the discussion of the syllabus. Okay, perfect. And this is where in the introduction and news items, this is where I will post a link about the best practices that you might have picked up from other instructors, or what are some of the best practices of an online class, and what are some of not so best practices. So if you can share that with me, I will look those over and try to incorporate your suggestions. I haven't posted that link yet, but I will do that by the end of the class today, and then you can let me know by the end of the class on Thursday, so that when we meet Thursday, or when we meet next week, I will have some of those best practices accounted for. Perfect. So I don't believe there's anything on the chat here. And so I can go back to the discussion of the syllabus. So good news about this class is that you will not require to purchase any textbooks, so no additional cost than what you're already paying for the fees and stuff like that. But there's no additional textbook costs for this class. Whatever you need, I have listed some references, but whatever you need from these references, you will have. I will just share those with you, right? So you don't have to worry about purchasing anything, all the resources that you need. I'm not going to post, obviously, everything from these textbooks or anything like that. I can't do that for the copyright reasons, obviously. But I think in terms of the fair academic use, if there is the page or 2 pages that you need to review, I will make sure that you have access to it via our Canvas page. So you don't have to worry about this. So some of these things, what are these things? These are how to measure traffic safety. This is some of the classic texts by Elvik and Va. And then there is Ezra Hauer, who is sort of the father of substantive safety. How do we conduct observational before and after studies? So I will have Ezra Hauer's text, and I will have some tutorial access that I'll provide from that. And then there is the MUTCD. MUTCD is the Manual for Uniform Traffic Control Devices, sort of our guiding document in terms of the substantive safety, in terms of the nominal safety, in terms of the design standards. That all mostly comes from MUTCD and the roadway design AASHTO Green Book and so forth. So there will be that. And then MUTCD is freely available online, and they just came out with a new edition. So we'll probably update that. And I'll highlight some of the changes that might have occurred as we go on in the class. And then a highway safety manual that I mentioned, as I said, that came out in 2010. And I'm aware of some of the new research that's going into it for the newest edition of the highway safety manual that's expected to come out very soon. So we'll share some of that, and some road safety audit resources where you kind of look at a roadway section as it exists and try to identify some safety problems proactively, some of the things where you expect the road users to have some trouble. And then we'll have some resources on the road safety resources on low and middle income countries. So we'll talk about some of those things. And then one thing that I will talk about in the class is that we will have some resources on road safety in low and middle income countries, because some of those challenges are very different and very unique, and they have much more heterogeneous mix of traffic. And then we'll talk about some of those resources as well, likely because I'm starting to see more and more of some of these transportation firms that are more global firms. As the awareness for traffic safety grows in some of those other locations, other low and middle income countries, things become, so some of these are companies, global companies are providing some consultancy in those countries as well. So I would like you guys to be aware of some of those challenges as well. And then this last 2 resources that I list here, they are not necessarily have anything to do with traffic safety per se, but those are some things that could be very useful, because in a lot of times in traffic safety, you are trying to make sense of the data. The biggest thing that you're doing is making sense of large data sets that have been collected over time. We are going to make use of trying to analyze some crash data. A lot of times substantive safety analysis is completely dependent on looking at historical crash patterns and trying to discern what kind of patterns can you expect in the future. So being able to analyze the data, being able to model the data in some ways is a very valuable skill. And we'll try to learn some of those skills using the programming language and software R. And R, the good thing about R is that it's a free software, so anybody can download it. Anybody can put that on your computers for free, no problem. And I will have a student assistant from the statistics department who will be here and will be joining us in future classes, who can provide us with some guidance on how to use R. And this 25 days of R Advent calendar is something that I found last year is posted. It's basically an exercise where you can kind of go over, and these are not like 25 days means you don't have to spend full 25 days. These are very small exercises. You spend 25 days, like maybe every, so these exercises should take you like maybe half an hour to 35 minutes to go over, and you can on your own, and they provide the code and everything. and they provide you with the problem, and you solve the problem using a code, and those could be very valuable. So I think one thing that we'll do is that we'll spend maybe the next lab, not today's lab, but the next week's lab, working on these exercises together. So online, and then you will have installed the thing, the software program. So we'll probably spend some time next week, so that once we actually get into our lab exercises, you have some experience. But you're welcome to look these over like before next week. You're fine to do that. But I would basically spend like at least, I think these 25 days, obviously this is not 25 days worth of content, but what I would like to do is like spend some time in our next week class when we have our statistics student assistant available here. All of us maybe we'll kind of divide ourselves in group of 3 or 4, and then just go over these exercises. And they should take, I think in 3 hours, you should probably be able to go over the whole 25 days of this calendar thing. Basically, these are 25 different exercises in R that you do, and there is YouTube videos to do that, and so forth. There's a whole playlist that goes over everything. So we'll do that next week. In the meantime, I think one thing that you guys might want to do is just basically the first day on this is just installing R and R Studio, the software that we use to run R. You might want to install that on your computer if you don't already have it for any other classes. So that's something. And again, this is not necessarily a traffic safety thing, but it's more of a data analysis skill. And you can, this skill is valuable because I think we are dealing with more and more data in transportation as the profession grows. And I think this will give you some valuable skills. And I'm trying to incorporate this stuff in a lot of my classes. So if you do take some classes with me in the future, I think this will still be very beneficial to you, because we plan to make use of this. So we'll probably spend at least one class learning this program, so that we are much better prepared for our lab classes. Okay, so I'm going to stop here again for a second here for any questions you guys might have, or anything you want to ask. Either you can ask via audio and video, or you can put your question in chat window, whatever works best for you. So I'm just going to hold off here for a second.
Professor, do you know anything about compatibility with Macs? I'm sure it doesn't seem like R and R Studio would be something that that wouldn't be compatible, but aside from that, will there be any other software throughout the quarter that will require the use of a PC?
Yes, so basically, no, I don't expect any compatibility issue for you guys with Mac or PC. That should not be any problem at all. And yeah, you should be able to install R on Mac. One good thing about R is that you can pretty much find anything that you need to do in R. You should be able to find help online. So if you search like installing R Studio on Mac, you should be able to find like a lot of videos on precisely, they give you the instructions and all of that. So that's why I like R a lot. It's very, very compatible with PC or Mac. And for different platforms, there is like help available that you can just easily look up on the internet and on YouTube and so forth. So yeah, so I don't anticipate any compatibility issue, whether you have PC or Mac. So that shouldn't be a problem. And I don't believe there is any other software we'll use. We'll use Excel, which I'm hoping that you will have access to on either PC or Mac. So yeah, no, I don't anticipate any problems, at least in this class, any software that we might use that will have any compatibility issues with Mac. So yeah, we should be good to go. We should be good to go. No problem.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, perfect. So no more questions. I will just go ahead and move to the next thing. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is how we are going to assess the performance. So one thing I would do is that I very much welcome your participation in the class. And there would be some optional surveys in the class, and there will be obviously some quizzes and some assignments and some projects and so forth. I will gauge your participation as how engaged you are with the class. And that doesn't mean that you have to ask, questions all the time when we are having these Zoom sessions, or, but that does mean that you have to be engaged. You have to be submitting your work on time as much as possible. And I understand this is a tough year we are facing. We have a pandemic going on, so there would be challenges. And I will be very mindful of those challenges that you all are facing, and I'm facing, frankly, as well. But I would not like you not to be chronically late. So chronically late with your assignment, chronically late with your quizzes, that might have some adverse effect on your participation grade. And I understand, I will be very understanding in terms of one assignment being late or two assignments being late throughout the whole quarter, but or you not being responding to few of the surveys, and that's all, or few of the questions that I might pose on Canvas. That's all acceptable, but just make sure that you are engaged with the class to the best of your abilities. And if you're having any problems, please reach out to me. I will be very happy to help out. And if you know any problems that you might encounter and you know about, and if there are some anticipated issues you're having with regards to anything, just I would appreciate just to reach out so that I know you're engaged with the class, but you have some genuine issues that you're facing and you cannot take care of some things for the class. I will be very understanding because participation, as I mentioned here, it is actually 10% of your grade. And those points are very easy to get. Those points are just basically you showing up for the classes and showing up for all the content that we have and just basically participating for the class. So, and I expect all of you to be able to get full 10% of that grade. But if the only way to lose points on that is basically being chronically late with stuff without informing me that you are having some challenges. So I hope you will be willing to share with me any issues you're facing that's preventing you from doing your best in this class. And I don't need to know all the details. I don't need to pry. I don't intend to pry on the issues you're facing, but I will just appreciate a heads up if you ever think that there would be an issue that you might be facing. But those 10 points for participation, I expect all of you to be able to obtain them. And then beyond that, there will be homework grade. Specific grade for each assignment will be available when we post the assignment, but homework will be about 20% of your grade. Lab projects and presentations will be 50%. So a lot of projects that you're going to do for this class as part of the lab. So that's half the grade for your class. And then there will be some tests and short quizzes and some final exam. And that's only 20% because again, those tests will be open book and open notes and everything. They will be open to everything other than you sort of engaging with each other during the tests and during the quizzes. So other than that, you're welcome to consult any online resources. That's fine. What I don't expect is that you guys talking with each other. So I will just strongly advise against that. I would basically not tolerate that for the test, but for the projects, for the homework, yes, I would. And for anything that happens in the class, other than those quizzes and tests, you're welcome to collaborate with each other. If you want to work on homeworks together, that's perfectly fine. What I would advise against on that is that you don't want to copy somebody else's work without understanding it, because then you will have trouble grasping the concept. And one thing is that, in the graduate classes, the grades basically are immaterial. I mean, a grade is a B, A versus a B. Yeah, no, I don't think that matters. Or a B plus versus a B, or B versus a B minus. Those grades at that point, I don't think they matter in the grand scheme of things. They don't matter. What matters is that, are you learning the skills we are trying to teach you? And the funny thing is that as you learn these things, as you will recognize that it doesn't even matter these specific skills you're picking up or not. Like, I probably shouldn't say this while we are being recorded, but a very good, like one thing that I've learned about how these things work out is that the specific things you're going to learn in the class, maybe they will be useful when you just join a company. Maybe there will be like first few years of your career, some of these things might become useful to you or might be useful to you because you've seen that you'll be able to hit the ground running with those, right? But as you progress in your careers in the long run, the specific skills you're going to pick up in the classes, I hate to break it to you, they're not going to matter as much. What's going to matter is that, were you able to learn those skills? Did you pick up how your brain works, how you learn those things? So learning, being able to learn how to learn these skills is much more important than the specific skills that I'm going to teach you in the class, right? And that's a profound insight that I actually, frankly, did not learn until it was too late, like until I was well into my teaching career. And this is something that you guys are going to realize. And obviously at Cal Poly, we are very big on learn by doing. We are big on learn by doing, yes, partly because we want to give you those skills, but also because when you learn by doing, you pick up how your brain works. You learn the ability to learn new skills, because I guarantee it, all the skills that you're going to pick up at all Cal Poly classes, you're probably going to use, in terms of the material and skills, probably going to use 20% of that. Probably. What you're going to use in the class is that what you learn here, you are going to gain how your brain works to learn new skills. And then when you work, you're going to have to learn new skills. So when you copy somebody else's, so what I'm trying to get at is that when you copy somebody else's material, you are depriving your brain the opportunity to be able to learn how to learn a new skill, right? So I would strongly suggest that you don't worry about the grades in my class. Don't even worry about, if just make sure that you are able to learn, you're able to put in the time that's required to learn these skills, not necessarily for the skills that you're picking up, just to give your brain the practice of being able to learn something new. And I was just reading an article, in the newspaper, because I subscribe to the newspaper. I'm one of those crazy guys who still subscribe for the newspaper. But I was reading an article recently, and the article is titled, the fun and the importance of being a novice in any skill, even as an adult, being a novice, because it gives the brain, it becomes harder as you grow up. So it's very hard for me to learn new skills now, but it's still beneficial because it gives my brain the exercise to be able to learn something new. And that's something that I would very much want you to have happen, to pick up from this class, is that if you forget about these skills 10 days after, I'm perfectly fine with that. But what I'm not fine with is that you're not putting the effort to learn the skills in my class. So that's something that I would very much like you to do, is that you are able to learn the new skills in my class. Okay, so what I will do, any questions? So this is the grading breakdown. This is the grading breakdown here. And if there are any other questions about this, I will just hold off on that. Any questions about the grading and how I'm going to expect late work or early work and so forth, I would welcome your advice on that, or any questions about that. I'll just hold off for another minute or so. If you want to ask via audio or via the chat window, you're welcome to do so. I'm not hearing any questions, but what I'll do, like, because I've been talking too long, I will just take a quick break here, and I will give our colleague Katie here, Catherine Lee, who is the president of the club that I advise, Student Club, Institute of Transportation Engineer. I will give her the floor for next couple of minutes to talk about the ITE club and what fun things are happening with ITE this quarter. And she would basically try to encourage you to join ITE. And I would do the same thing because I'm the advisor for the club. But I'll just want to give the floor to her to just kind of break the monotony of discussing the syllabus for a few minutes, and then we can go back to the syllabus for a minute. Okay? So I will mute myself, and I'll have Katie talk about ITE for a minute.
Yeah, hello everybody. My name is Catherine, or I go by Katie. Like Dr. Pandey said, I am this year's club president for Cal Poly ITE. And today I am here along with a lot of my other officers, but Will, our social coordinator, and Emily Lynn, who's our treasurer, to talk to you all about ITE, why you all should join it, and some exciting events that we have coming up. So what is ITE? ITE, the organization, is a community of transportation professionals, not just engineers, but everybody and anybody who's interested in transportation. Cal Poly ITE is the student chapter of the professional organization, which connects students to the industry. We aim to follow ITE's mission to provide knowledge, practices, and skills to all students, to build a community with all who are interested in transportation, like I mentioned before. Our annual membership is $20, which covers a t-shirt, a resume on CD, which now is going to be shared virtually to all companies. We have conference funding, firm tours, and much more. So if you are interested in receiving our weekly emails, who is sent out by Philip, who's our secretary, who's also in the class, I think, to be informed about our upcoming events and opportunities, please fill out the interest form that Emily will be putting into the chat very soon. So I'm going to give the floor to Emily to talk about why she decided to join ITE.
Hey guys, so I joined ITE in 2018, so my sophomore year, and initially I joined because I was really interested in transportation and I saw a club that fit my interests. So I joined, and also a lot of my friends joined, and basically I really like the club atmosphere and what it has to offer, because along with like social benefits of like meeting other students who are interested in transportation as well, you also get a lot of like you get to network professionals a lot, and it's also a club I just really care about and I feel really comfortable with.
Cool, thank you, Emily. So why should other students, you all, join ITE as a student? So Cal Poly ITE aims to provide a home away from home. All students are welcome to be part of ITE, our family, whether you are a CE, CRP, GE, EE, and so on. ITE provides a diverse and inclusive space for all who are interested in any aspect of transportation, whether that be ITS, which stands for Intelligent Transportation Systems, traffic and operation, roadway highway design, aviation, autonomous vehicle, et cetera, et cetera. Being part of the family connects you to other students and professionals from all over the world, from across the US, Canada, New Zealand, and Australia. It also provides you with endless resources, leadership opportunities and job opportunities. And student members get all of that for free from the professional organization. So next we have Will, who's going to be talking about some upcoming events that we have coming up for the next couple of weeks.
Hi, I'm Will. So we actually have a lot of events going on. So just this week, we have our first general meeting. We have some professional development to get you ready just before the career fair. We're also having a social this Friday just to help people get to know each other. Next week, we have our big Student Leadership Summit. So that's a conference run by students for students. It's a great way to meet people who are interested in transportation outside of Cal Poly. There are also going to be very interesting talks from various professionals on topics. Would highly recommend, if you're even slightly interested in transportation, going to the Student Leadership Summit, because that's a great way to meet people, get to know about it, get to know about the organization and just the broader transportation community. Beyond that, ITE has a lot of stuff. Like I mentioned, we have socials. It's going to be game nights, murder mysteries, movie nights. We have a whole professional development series that's going to be going on through the quarter. So it's going to be resumes, interviews, just getting prepped for all that stuff. And then we're going to be having our general meetings, which are going to have various companies talking to you about some amazingly cool projects like Complete Streets, ITS, anything you can think about. We're probably going to have a meeting about it, and probably other events scattered throughout. Yeah.
Yeah, so our first general meeting will be this Thursday at 11 a.m. So hopefully we will see you all there.
Perfect. Thank you, Katie and Will and Emily. Appreciate your input. So one thing I did was that I put in the these IT interest form and IT membership form on Canvas, so you guys can access those. You can access those now, and if you're so inclined, and I would strongly recommend it because this is a club that's you know, folks who have graduated from Cal Poly, they you know, they really appreciate what IT did for their careers as they were starting out. So I would strongly recommend you guys you know, joining the club. Obviously, and if you do join the club, use that to join the national organization as well, because that would be a good thing. Just give me 1 second here, okay? My apologies. This is the perils of running the classroom from home. So, okay, thank you guys. Thanks for your indulgence. I just had to step aside for a second. Okay, so yeah, so I did post these links on there. So if you're interested, I hope you are. And this might be the best $20. Is that $20? $20 you spend. And then Leadership Summit, great event. It all started at Cal Poly, and now it has proliferated around the country. So Cal Poly has a reputation to be attached, that is attached to the Student Leadership Summit, because we started it in 2014. Or, yeah, 2014. The first Leadership Summit happened here, and now the first virtual one is happening here. So yeah, there's a lot of good things. And if transportation is in your, like, that's your career choice, which I think it is, because you are taking the graduate class in transportation safety. So yeah, IT would be, if you're not already a member, that'd be a great club to join. And yeah, I know some of you might be thinking it's kind of like a shameless plugging. And yeah, I'm not ashamed of it at all. So yeah, completely shameless plugging. And I'm proud of it. Okay. All right. So yeah, so I will just now, let's go over, let's continue now. So I hope this was sort of a break from the syllabus, and now we can go back to talk about the syllabus again. So let's see. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again, and let's see. Are you guys able to see the screen, the syllabus again? If you're not, just let me know. Perfect. Okay, so let's see. So we were talking about the workload. So in terms of the workload, it won't be easy, because I think there is going to be, it's going to be a lot of work, a lot of reading assignments and so forth. I think your workload beyond the class would be, and we can get some efficiency because we're running the class online and we're going to be recording the class. So we can get some efficiencies out of it. So maybe you would have to spend about 4 hours per week in addition to your in-class lectures. So plan for that. But if you do find yourself in a place where you're taking too long, if it's taking too much of your time too much more than 4 hours per week, then you should talk to me, because maybe there is something that's not going right. If you're spending too little time, then you can expect that, yeah, so then you're also, again, you're not giving your brain enough time to absorb the content and absorb give your brain enough practice to learn new skills. So I would just strongly recommend that beyond the class time, try to give it like at least 4 hours per week to work on different things for this class. At the end of the class, there will be a plus minus grading there. And again, I don't want to assign too much importance to that stuff. And, the grading is important because obviously we do that because sometimes that's the only thing that gets everybody motivated to work hard. So in that sense, it's important, but think of it as a symptom, right? So this is just a symptom of the effort you put in. Don't think of that as the big thing. The big thing is the ability to learn and being able to learn the material. And even more important than that is that giving yourself the chance to learn new things. And that's what a college should be about. And that's what this class is going to be about. So yes, a grade would be a symptom of that. And we have to use the grading system because that's the thing that motivates everybody. As a professor for 13 years now, what I've learned is that if I assign like even half a point to an assignment, that gets done. But if I don't assign any weight to that assignment, it never gets done by students. So we have to, so I think of grading as a sort of a necessary, maybe not evil, but yeah, almost like a necessary evil. I have to grade because that's what gets people going to do the work. But doing the work is the important thing. Grading is just a symptom of that. If you do good work, the grade will take care of itself, or it wouldn't matter really in the grand scheme of things. So think of grade as something, yes, you work towards, but you're working towards learning, and then the grading takes care of itself. Communicating with me, the best way is the email. So if you put CE526 in the subject line, then you could get a response from me within the next 24 hours. Setting up a virtual meeting via Calendly would work as well. So just go ahead and reach out. Sometimes, emails can get lost and so forth. So if you don't hear from me, yeah, feel free to set up a Calendly email. But I'll try to respond to emails for the class, especially if you put in the subject line CE526. I'll be happy to do that. Okay, and this is something that I've recently added to my class, the issue of diversity, inclusion, and respect. And this has become even more important as we are doing virtual classes. I expect all of you, and I plan to do that, the same thing. And I expect everybody to teach each other with respect and dignity. The issues of race, ethnicity, national or regional origins, socioeconomic status, gender or gender identity, sexuality, class, and religion. If we have folks that represent these different aspects, let's acknowledge that actually enhances and enriches the discussions that we are going to have in the class. And it enhances the creative problem solving because people bring in different perspectives. Think about the issue of, and from a traffic perspective, I always give the example of diversity that comes from being able to address the concerns that a disabled person might have. Thinking about when we walk around, if we are fully able-bodied, we walk around the neighborhoods, we don't think of a bump in the sidewalk as a big deal at all. We just sort of jump over it. But if you have folks who need a wheelchair to navigate around the neighborhood, then they can bring in that perspective of, hey, we have to take care of the accessibility concerns. And if you're completely able-bodied, that's something that you are completely have a blind spot for. So having diversity in the class actually enhances and enriches the intellectual discussion and creative problem solving that we can bring to the class. So I would urge all of you to being open to new ideas and showing respect for diverse point of view. And anytime you see that's not happening in the class, I would really appreciate if you reach out to me. and let me know that that's something that you want me to take care of. And at least, and again, I'm not arrogant enough to believe that we'll be able to take care of all of these things that we need to take care of as a society. But if anytime you find that this class is not being helpful in that regard, I would appreciate you guys reaching out to me and letting me know that this is something that I could change and address in some ways. So that's something that I would really appreciate you guys reaching me out about. So next thing I want to talk about is the academic integrity. Cal Poly does not tolerate cheating or plagiarism in any form. There's going to be a lot of writing that you're going to do as part of this class. And again, there will be some tests happening in the class. Those tests are going to be completely open book, open notes, open internet, everything, except for collaborating with another individual, either in class or outside of the class. So there could be an asynchronous, you could look up resources that are on the internet somebody had posted. I'm fine with that. But you cannot ask that specific question to another individual and get response, because that basically undermines the whole learning process. So other than that, you're welcome to collaborate with folks other than for classes. But if I find out that you guys are engaging in cheating or plagiarism, that would not have good consequences for your learning. But beyond that, I would, just to keep it fair, I would be inclined to report you to the to the relevant people at Cal Poly who sort of deal with that issue after that. And that the consequences for that are just too bad to discuss. And they're just not worth it, because as I said before, and I cannot emphasize this again and again, the purpose is to learn. And if you engage in these kind of activities, you don't learn. And if you don't learn, then even if you're able to secure a good grade, that defeats the purpose. And the risk is just too high of getting caught. And at that point, the consequences for your academic career could be dire as well. I hope that never comes to that. And we'll never have to worry about that. Okay. I have this whole section on late work and technological failures and so forth. I used to be pretty strict about, you turning in work late and so forth. But, I have evolved in my thinking, especially post-pandemic. I don't want to be that strict. I don't intend to be that strict. I understand that you guys, as students, would be facing challenges that are way beyond what goes on in the classroom. Okay? And some of you might have kids, some of you might have parents to take care of, or family issues. And if you want to share those with me, I'm happy to listen to. But even if you don't want to share specific issues with me, I'm fine with you just pointing out and letting me know that sometimes some things might be hindering your learning. And my goal would then be to give you adequate amount of time for you to complete the material that you need to learn. Right? So I'll be very flexible with my deadline. I would just appreciate some heads up on your part. So again, reach out anytime. And if you are, if you're having any challenges, I'm very understanding of the ideas that sometimes the deadlines would be missed. I cannot pretend that everything is normal right now, right? And I'm not going to do that. So what I would appreciate from you is just a note that you are having some trouble, and let's try to find a solution. And in this shuffle, if some deadlines get missed, that's fine. And again, as I said before, I may not be able to guarantee a full grade to you, but I can guarantee that you will have the opportunity to work on some things that you might miss and achieve those learning objectives associated with the missed work, and still be able to get a reasonable grade out of it if you're willing to work with me. So please reach out and help me out in helping you out to learn the material and develop some skills on how to learn new things. So the next thing I would do is to jump off to the actual content of the class. And before I do that, though, one thing I want to do is let's just take a little break here. But as I'm taking the break, I'll leave you with something, and that would be a little quick assignment on Polylearn. So I'm going to go ahead and log in here to Canvas. And on your Canvas page, and I'll switch over to the student view, you will see a traffic safety fact screenshot. And that screenshot basically has some highlighted content. I hope you guys can still see that. Okay. So what we are going to do is, I want you to read this highlighted content. You can read the whole thing too, but for now, my goal is for you guys to be able to read this content that I've encircled here. The critical reasons for critical pre-crash event. And this is about crash investigations. You know, when a crash happens on a roadway, especially if it involves some injuries, serious injuries or fatalities, we always look for analyze that crash, and police officer analyzes that crash and creates a crash report. And from that crash report, we try to figure out what caused that crash. So what I want you to do is read through this content here that's encircled. And once you've read through it, I want you to go over this and try to answer this question. Discussion quiz 1. So if you just click on take this quiz, based on the review of the highlighted content, the content that I encircled on there, what are the implications for connected vehicles, right? What is like, and this is just an exercise, and I know you guys might have heard about connected and autonomous vehicles. There's a lot of, and you might have heard, and I'm not gonna bias you about with my opinion just yet, but what I want you to make the connection of, okay, you know about connected and autonomous vehicles, they're gonna drive themselves, they're gonna avoid the obstacles, they can manage their speed, and they can do lane changing and whatnot, and they can do this whole thing. I want you to review the content that I highlighted on that image and just, you know, think about what is the implication of what you just read on that screenshot. What is the implication for this paragraph that's written here? Critical reasons for the critical pre-crash event. What are the implications for connected vehicles because of this? Okay. So what we'll do is now we'll take, so I don't want you to spend too much time on it. I want you to spend maybe 5 to 10 minutes thinking about that stuff and see what you can input online, like maybe input that. And so think about it for 5 minutes or so, try to input that for next 5-10 minutes or so. And let's try to reconvene in at 9:45. Okay, let's try to, or let me give you 5 more minutes to just take a break and walk around as well. So let's reconvene at 9:50. So we're going to take maybe, so what I want you to do is like not spend all your time kind of thinking and writing about it. Even if you don't get the writing done, I'll give you some time at the end of the lecture to get your writing done. And that's fine. But this is something I want you to think about and type up what you think about the implications for connected vehicles based on this thing. Okay, so let's take a 20-minute break. I'm going to pause the recording unless you guys have any questions. Are there any questions about this little assignment? But what I want you to do is like not spend the whole 20 minutes writing this up. I want you to maybe take a 5-minute break to walk around, maybe get some water, use the restroom, whatever. So let's reconvene in 20 minutes at about 9:50. And by that time, hopefully you'll have some content in for the quiz response. Even if you don't, that's fine. I'll give you some time at the end of the class to wrap that up. But just at least give it a thought about how this relates with connected and autonomous vehicles. Okay. So are there any questions? So you can put them via audio or via chat window. And those questions could relate to anything. If there are no questions, I will just stop sharing and stop recording for a minute. And so I don't see any questions in the chat room. So I will just stop the recording for now. And then we'll restart recording when we get back. Okay? So take a few minutes of break, try to think about the question, try to type something up. We'll reconvene at 9:50.